oil, put it in the engine, right? But why was it low on oil? Well, there was probably a leak, right? So I had to take it to a mechanic, and sure enough, I need to have some pretty major work done on my car. Now, I could just keep putting oil in it, right? And that would help, but it doesn't deal with the underlying problem. I still need to go in and have the expensive, difficult, challenging work that's causing the oil to leak out dealt with. And this is analogous to how we handle anger, right? If you are repeatedly experiencing anger that you have to repeatedly deal with by deep breathing exercises or going for a walk or reciting your favorite, those are all good things to deal with it in the moment. Don't let that anger stay there. But if it keeps flaring up over and over again, don't think that just by continuing to put oil into the car, you're actually dealing with the problem. The reason the light keeps coming on is because there's a deeper problem that needs to be addressed. Does that make sense? So what we're to take off then is this unhealthy response to anger. Unhealthy responses to anger that make us vulnerable to sin. That can be holding on to anger too long. That can be blowing up when we get angry. There's different ways that the devil can use anger. But what we're to put on instead, and this isn't stated here, but I think it's implied by the fact that you're supposed to be angry and not sin, is that we're supposed to do something healthy with that anger. We're supposed to respond to it in a healthy way that addresses the root cause behind it. That's what we put on. That's the second thing we've looked at. The third thing on our list of stop it behaviors is in verse 28. It says, "Let the thief no longer steal, but rather let him labor, doing honest work with his own hands, so that he may have something to share with anyone in need." Again, this seems like kind of a no-brainer, right? Christians aren't supposed to steal. And hopefully we all agree with that. But if we leave it at that, we're missing something really important here. Because what are we supposed to put on? You take off theft, but you put on hard work. But not just hard work which is motivated by generosity toward others. What is the motivation behind theft? Again, there could be circumstances where there's other motivations, but generally, and I think assumed here, is that most times when people steal, it's a self-centered greed that drives that. They want something that they can't have, that somebody else has, and so they take it, thinking about themselves rather than the person that they're stealing from. So we're supposed to take that attitude off, and we're supposed to put on an attitude of, hey, if I work hard, I can meet somebody else's need. Instead of being self-focused, I'm focused on how I can bless other people. Do you see how that motivation is really important? Because if we just take off theft and put on hard work without addressing the motivation of our heart, we're not really any better off, right? Because I can work really hard motivated by my self-centered greed. We got a lot of people in this country that are really good at that. And that is not the new self that I'm being called to put on. I'm supposed to change my motivation. I'm supposed to think about other people. I'm supposed to practice generosity because I care about other people. And that is what is supposed to motivate my work. We take off theft motivated by self-centered greed. We put on hard work motivated by generosity toward others. That's the third thing we take off. The fourth thing we're supposed to take off is described in verse 29. It says, "Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that may give grace to those who hear." If you ask me what verse in the Bible is the most personally convicting verse repeatedly in my life, I would probably come to Ephesians 4:29. Because I tend to run my mouth. I have a lot to say. I have a lot of opinions. I have a lot of ideas. I like to be funny. I like to be clever. And I just talk a whole lot more than I need to. And then I gave that problem to my kids. We just finished spring break hanging out with my kids a lot. I brought up Ephesians 4:29 repeatedly. They'll tell you. Now again, we have to look at both sides of the coin here because it's easy to just focus on the stop it part. No corrupting talk should come out of your mouth. Well, what qualifies as corrupting talk? The word there, the idea is something that erodes or corrodes or decreases value, right? So anything that I say that might diminish you as a person in some way, and that can be pretty broad. So how do I know? What's the list of words that I'm not allowed to say as a Christian? How do I know whether that joke is okay to tell or not? It's a really difficult thing to judge when we just leave it as the no corrupting talk. But that's not the command here. Because actually our speech is limited not by the negative, but by the positive here. Only such. The only words that should come out of my mouth are supposed to meet this standard. It's supposed to be good for building up as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. If I'm about to say something and I cannot answer this question, who will be graced by this speech? Who will be built up by this speech? Who will benefit from me saying this thing? Then I'm supposed to keep my mouth shut. Now that is a lot harder to do, but it's a lot easier to understand, right? I don't have to worry about, which words are the bad words and which ones are okay. If I'm really actually thinking about the other person and how they're going to be blessed or benefited by this speech. And if I can't answer that question, I probably don't have to say anything. We are so conditioned as people to think about